We would like to thank LSR for sponsoring the Let's Be Frank video podcast. LSR produces Southern Cane Pure Cane Sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. Southern Cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
We're kicking off episode number 15 of the Let's Be Frank video podcast. I am your host, Jason Duhe. Alongside of me is Hall of Fame head coach Frank Monaco. We got a great show for you tonight in our finale. We have some prep talk where we're going to preview some of these final matchups in the Superdome. We're going to talk some bowl game scenarios and recap Tulane's game over the weekend. We're also going to talk some Saints. And in the Let's Be Frank segment, Coach is going to discuss if teams should continue to play the state title game in the Superdome. So, Coach, state finals week, you have all these great matchups in the Superdome. What's the biggest advice or piece of advice that you would give a coach preparing their team for the first time going into this weekend?
I tell anybody this: if you play in the Superdome, make sure you get all that leg work out of the way. People will be calling you for sideline passes, for tickets. They're going to want to know about pictures and stuff like that. You need to get all that stuff out of the way. A lot of distractions come with it. I'll talk more about that later. We come with playing in the Superdome, scheduling buses and things of that nature that you don't normally have to deal with. And a lot of this stuff comes 2 weeks prior to the time that you even know that you're going to get there. So I would say get somebody to handle all that for you, where you can focus on watching the film, getting your team ready to play football rather than all the logistics.
All right, Coach, so let's go ahead and dive into prep talk. As we said, we're going to talk about some of these state finals matchup. We're going to kind of go down the list and look day by day. As Thursday, we're going to start things off at the 12 o'clock matchup with the Division IV Select matchup. Vermilion Catholics going to take on Ouachita Christian, two teams that have been in these types of scenarios, been in these types of games, and it should be a really fun matchup in a division that we both talked about. Might have been one of the most grueling ones to battle through.
Yeah, well, first of all, VC just destroyed Kent with that semifinal ball game, and they've been a number one seed all year long. So I think that they're the team to beat. Ouachita Christian's been there before. They had a tough game, and they actually defeated Ascension Catholic, went down there to defeat them at 1 point ball game. So that could be very interesting. The experience will go with the Ouachita Christian, but it sounds like Vermilion Catholic is a little bit more, I think, this more of a thorough football team this season.
Vermilion Catholic the only defeat that a team went about later, Catholic New Iberia, had on the season, and they're a very good team as well. As we move on to the next matchup, the 3:30 slot is going to be Haynesville taking on South Plaquemine in the Division IV non-select game. And Haynesville is a team that's consistently there. South Plaque kind of finding their way back to the Superdome. What do you look for in this game?
Well, it's been a long, long time since South Plaque got there. Really, they're miles apart. I mean, South Plaquemine is almost down to the tip of the state of Louisiana. Haynesville on the other side, all the way in North Louisiana, almost in Arkansas. But Haynesville's been there. They've been there. They defeated General Trash very easily. South Plaquemine had a tougher time with Logansport, but they're tough. The guys down there, they work extremely hard. You know, football is really big at South Plaquemine, and some of the other sports, I mean, kind of take a back seat to football there. So Coach Fitt is a real good coach, and he's going to have them ready. But it sounds like Haynesville probably has a upper hand there because of their experience in being there.
In the Thursday 7 o'clock slot, we are going to have Sterlington taking on St. James, the Lone River Parish team left in the hunt for a title. Sterlington, a team that you're familiar with, Coach. You had to play them a few times during your course at St. Charles, a team that consistently makes it deep in the playoffs. What do you look for in this one?
Well, they beat easily. They beat Gina. They have experience. They're well coached. They play St. James, and St. James got a great quarterback, and they're very explosive on offense.
In our Friday matchups, we're going to lead things off in the 12 o'clock kickoff Division II select matchup. Shaw is going to take on E.D. White. We've talked to both coaches throughout the course of the season. Shaw has arguably one of the most explosive offenses in the entire state. E.D. White has consistently played up to the level of their opponents. It should be a fascinating one to watch.
Two diverse offenses. E.D. White beat Leesville in a close ball game, and Shaw took care of Madison Prep at home. And but I really think that Shaw has a really explosive offense. If E.D. White can keep pace with them, Eddie White's defense has always been good there. They'll be sound. They'll be very physical. And Shaw's going to have to play some defense because what Eddie White can do, they can shrink the game. They can control it on the ground and shrink the game and get it to the fourth quarter. And if they get it to the fourth quarter, the key is that they get this ball game within a touchdown to the fourth quarter. Then they could come back and steal a win.
And in the 3:30 slot on Friday, it's going to be the Division III select matchup, and it's going to be Dunham taking on Catholic New Iberia. Dunham has a loaded offense. They have a ton of offensive weapons. But, Coach, I'm going to tell you, I got to watch this Catholic New Iberia team in person. This defense is no joke. They have a quarterback who's a 3-year starter, has passed for up to the point I watched him in the Newman game, 2 interceptions on the season with 30-plus touchdowns. They have a ton of talent on both sides of the ball. I think it'll be interesting to see this one play out.
Well, Dunham beat Bunkie easily, and Catholic High had to struggle, and actually were very, very fortunate. Calvary, they scored at the end. They onside kick, and they got the ball back, and they completed a pass and kicked a field goal with no time left on the clock. So Catholic High barely got by that ball game. A very, very good Calvary Baptist team. They thought they had the game won. And so we've seen that happen a couple of times. And, actually, it's amazing because this happened to Calvary Baptist in St. Charles last year at the end of the ball game, how Calvary came back to beat St. Charles in that final. So the tables were turned in this particular matchup.
And in the nightcap, the 7 o'clock kickoff, you have the Division II non-select matchup between Franklinton, and they'll take on Cecilia. Cecilia is the team that continues to be there. They continue to find ways to win, or a lower seed had to play their way through a brutal part of the bracket. On the other hand, you have Franklinton led by Coach Salt Maggio, and I talked to Coach Salt last year. We called a semifinal game, and I kind of candidly asked, how do you like your team? He said, next year's team is going to be special, and it's coming to fruition. I think it's going to be a fun one to watch Friday night.
Well, he had an easy time with Iowa in the semifinal ball game. They're there. A little different story. Cecilia beat Plaquemine, who's a real fine football team that beat Opelousas, and I thought Opelousas was the team to beat all the way through this division. But Cecilia's been there. They defeated Lutcher, and Coach Jenkins said he hated that draw from the very beginning when he saw Cecilia as his first opponent. So this should be Cecilia's got a real good quarterback that's electric. So this could be a very, very good matchup on Friday night.
And Saturday, we only have the 2 games. So let's take a look at the first one. Division I select is going to be Carr taking on Alexandria. Alexandria defeating Curtis this weekend. Coach, you've talked about their defense and maybe giving them trouble. They did a really good job against John Curtis. Their offense is as explosive as anybody else in the state. And Carr is who we've touted them to be all season. 2 back-to-back difficult matchups, St. Thomas More, and they had to take on Catholic and pulled off those wins. These 2 teams are going to be ready to take one another on, and it'll be electric in that stadium.
Yeah, the Catholic Carr game was close. It was a very close ball game. I think Catholic did as well as they possibly could against them. Carr pulled it out at the end. They made it a 1-score ball game, but Carr was able to hold on at their place. And but in Alexandria, jumped out to 14-0 lead on Curtis, and that's not Curtis's thing. They have to come back because of their style, but they've done it all year long. So, but Alexandria and Carr, Alexandria's got the good running back that's going to LSU, and because Carr's got several guys going all over the SEC, so this could be a great game. And I think that we're looking forward to see that matchup, especially to see all the great players that are going to be on that field.
A ton of talent on both sides of the ball for both teams in that game. And we look at the final game. It's going to be a 3:30 kickoff, Division I non-select between Central taking on Ruston. Coach, just a year ago, Ruston was the team that just couldn't quite get it done. And they find themselves as defending state champions with an opportunity to win back-to-back. Central is a team that we knew coming into the season might be flying a little bit under the radar, have played a very tough schedule, and been successful. I think this is, again, there's no bad games being played this weekend, Coach. And I think that's a credit to the football that's being played in the state.
Well, the Central, I mean, they've been a dark horse, but actually a lot of people had to respect a lot of the coaches you talked around the state, how good they were. So it's not a surprise that they ended up getting it. It is a surprise that they went up to beat a fine Neville football team. And then Ruston, I mean, what can you say about them? They just literally destroyed a real good Destrehan team. Wasn't even competitive in that ball game. So, but again, Destrehan had a great year. Take it away from the fact that Destrehan had to go up North Louisiana 3 consecutive weekends. And I mean, that's something that really needs to be done about that. I mean, their guys had to be really tired and leg weary and the whole deal. But Ruston is just a massive football team, and it's going to take a real good effort by Central to compete with them.
All right, Coach, and we're going to go ahead and turn gears and take a look at some of these local colleges that we talk about, leading off with the Tulane matchup. Tulane was defeated in the conference title 35-14 by Army. Maybe not the result that they wanted or expected, but again, it's been a successful season. 3 straight conference title appearances. I don't know how many teams in the country can say that. Maybe one that I can think of would be Georgia. I don't know about anybody other than that.
Well, you know, the Coach Summerall, this guy has been touted for a lot of jobs recently. Tulane looked like a distracted team against Army. And I'm not saying that was the reason for it. I think Coach Summerall done a great job of deflecting all that interest on as far as his job of future, and he tried to talk to his team in terms of getting ready. But the last 2 outings that Tulane's had have not been impressive against Memphis and against Army. And Army kind of controlled the line of scrimmage. They did what they wanted to. They just went up and down the field. Quarterback for Tulane looked like he really wasn't very, very sharp. He wasn't alert. It didn't, it just didn't look like the same Tulane team that we've seen all year long for the last 2 weeks. So hopefully they can get that act together. There's talk now that Menz is going to enter the transfer portal in terms of that. And he's a good quarterback, but I think the last 2 ball games were not very good on his part. And, everybody's talked about him. They need to see him. I like to see him be a little bit more of a runner and show a little bit more toughness, I think. But I do think he's got a future. He's got a fine arm, throws a great ball. But anyway, congratulations, Coach Summerall, for what he's done with that team. Coming after Coach Willie Fritz left and had to bring some of his own guys in there. And let's just hope that he can keep it together with some of these guys that may enter the transfer portal.
Yeah, and Coach, they have a really fascinating matchup in their bowl game as well as they're playing. This is a mouthful, so bear with me. The Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl, as they're going to be taking on Florida. It's an interesting matchup. Florida is a team that kind of came on late, had their backs against the wall. Many weren't even expecting them to make a bowl, had to win 2 of their last 3. They win all 3 against LSU, Ole Miss, who was vying for a playoff spot. And, I mean, Florida State's just been dreadful this season. But regardless, that's a rivalry game. This is an interesting matchup, and they're going to be able to test themselves against a team that 7-5, you maybe kind of shrugged your shoulders, but that's a team that played the toughest schedule in the country.
No question. And I think their quarterback, the change of quarterbacks helped them. They're playing with a lot of momentum now. The Coach Napier just had a job extension, so I think that takes the pressure off of him for a little while, which I'm glad that's the case because I think he's a fine football coach. Going to Tampa for Tulane, I think it's the Gasparilla Bowl. I think it's a great draw for them. Now they have to prove that they can play an SEC opponent, and as you said, Florida's got SEC material. So it'll be a great contest, but I just hope that some of his players hang on to play this game so it's more competitive of a ball game and a true bowl game, and not just a game that for 15 additional practices. So it's gonna be played in Tampa on December 20th. So I think a lot of people from New Orleans will probably attend that.
And we also have LSU's going bowling. They're headed to the Texas Bowl, and they're going to take on Baylor. Probably not the bowl that LSU fans or players wanted to be playing in. However, you're taking on Dave Aranda, a team that's a guy that's familiar with the LSU program, was the defense coordinator for quite some time. And again, I think it'll be a fun game to watch. Again, maybe let's get the juice flowing like another game would. However, that's the way you played the season. You won 8 games, and this is the matchup you get. But all in all, I think it's a pretty solid matchup.
No, I think it's a great matchup, and it's really good. And as I said before, same thing with Tulane. I just hope some of his players decide to play. I know they got a couple guys that will be draft eligible that probably will not play in the ball game. I would like to see them. I remember Devin White, even though he knew it could be a high draft choice, he decided to play, and I still think the world of him for that, because he said that, well, I'm gonna play in this game because I owe it to my team, I owe it to my university. I will listen to other guys that had that kind of loyalty to their football team. So and because we want to see a good ball game. Baylor, Coach Aranda was on the chopping block himself. So you'd like to see both teams be competitive. You'd like to see both teams play with their full roster, if at all possible.
And you also have University of Louisiana, who's going to be taking on TCU. That's a fascinating matchup. I think TCU is, again, from the Big 12 now. Sometimes you get confused which conference is which. But as we kind of talked about, this is a team that was just playing for a national title 2 years back. So it should be an interesting game.
I think so. They're a team that's been up and down a little bit, but they've shown that they can beat the best in the country. And so ULL has had a fine season. The problem with is, like they happened at that championship game, they go down to their third team quarterback, and so hopefully they'll get one of those guys back to play this game. If not, it could be a tough task for them to go to New Mexico. But it'll be a great experience for those guys, and because they give all kind of things. They'll give these guys maybe a bowl ring, bowl watches. They give them all kind of material like bags and jumpsuits and stuff like that. So there's something every night. A bowl game is so nice for these players, because every night there's a dinner or some type of social for all the players and the coaches, and every night, and there's banquets and things of that nature. So it's a special week. It's not just a game. It's a special week. All these bowl games are. So no matter who you play, that experience is really, really nice. I've been fortunate. I was at Tulane. We went to Liberty Bowl to play Penn State in '79 with Joe Paterno. Then the following year, we had to go to Birmingham, Alabama to play in the Hall of Fame Bowl. At that time, it was in Birmingham against a guy by the name of Lou Holtz in the University of Arkansas. And those socials were so nice because you got a chance to hobnob with all those coaches and their staff. And the game was great, but the fact that you spent a whole week with these people was very special.
And, Coach, we're going to go ahead and move forward to the playoff picture. The field's been set. First of all, what are your initial thoughts on the 12 teams that got in? I know you've been very strongly favoring the idea of strength of schedule should matter. Do you feel like justice was served with Alabama being on the outside looking in while SMU being in?
Yeah. I'm going to talk a little bit about more of this later in the show, but I do think so. I do think that Alabama, they got beat at Vanderbilt. They were beaten at Vanderbilt. They were 3 touchdown favorite in that ball game. Then they also were beaten in their last ball game against Oklahoma, 24-3. They were 3 touchdown favorite in that ball game. So they've been on the road a couple of times, and they ended up losing 3 games during the year. So I don't know if they could, if they had made a competitive game in any one of those, I think it'd have been different. But the fact that they let Oklahoma run them over at the last game of the year, that didn't help their cause. And now the SEC is partially responsible for this. They wanted to expand and they wanted to get bigger, but now they only got 3 SEC schools in it. Strength of schedule should matter, but it needs to be a different system. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that a little bit further in the show.
All right, so, Coach, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these matchups. As the first game is to be Indiana taking on Notre Dame. How you like that one? 2 teams taking off. They haven't played each other a ton.
Well, Indiana, they deserve to be there. They deserve to be there. I know Coach Signetti is probably saying, hey, a lot of people think that we don't belong. I think it'll fight hard. Notre Dame, I think, will be the dark horse of this whole tournament. I really believe that. But Indiana's sound. They can play complementary football. But I think Notre Dame could be the dark horse of this whole thing.
Then you have SMU taking on Penn State. We talked about SMU maybe getting in due to their competitive nature in that playoff game, but should be a fun one to watch as SMU is going to take the road and play in Happy Valley.
Don't sell them short. SMU offense is terrific. They were very nervous in their championship game in the first half, and they came on like gangbusters in that ball game. I thought it was going to go to overtime. The kickoff returned in a 58-yard field goal, 1 completion. They were tied up with 16 seconds left to go in the game. What I don't like about this is that Boise State has a bye, and they play the winner of these 2 teams, And I think those two teams, I mean, I think Boise State is really easy in the bracket, and there's been a lot of controversy about that, how this bracket was set up.
Yeah, Coach, I agree with you. And I'll ask you a question about that in a minute. But you also have Clemson taking on Texas. Clemson kind of finding their way in purely because of winning the conference title game. But Texas has kind of been pretty steady the entire season. Maybe the strength of schedule hasn't been as high as people have anticipated with them coming into the SEC, playing 6 of the bottom teams in the conference. But again, all in all, still going to be an interesting game.
Yeah, I think Clemson should have actually gotten South Carolina into overtime at least. I think they blew that game at the end. I think they responded pretty decently, but I don't know if they're one of the better teams in there. Their ranking is actually like 17th or 18th, but because they won their conference championship game, they're there against Texas. Now, Texas themselves got a lot to be desired. I mean, Texas themselves have laid a couple eggs, and I think they got the best personnel in all of college football. But right now, I mean, I think that they should beat Clemson, but sometimes they're up and down. I know Coach Sark is a great offensive mind, but sometimes they're not a physical football team.
In the last first-round matchup, you have Tennessee, who's going to be traveling to Ohio State in what everybody is expecting to be the most exciting matchup. Ohio State is exceptionally talented, took a loss to Michigan their last game of the season. We all know what happened there, but Tennessee, it should be a fascinating matchup as they take that trip.
No question. I think Ohio State's still upset. I think they're still mad about the Michigan debacle that they had the last game of the year. But look ahead. The winner of this one has to go against Oregon. So that's the big beef for these two teams, that they have to go against Oregon. I mean, here's Boise State sitting there with a real good draw, and even Arizona State with 2 losses. But Ohio State and Tennessee, I think you're right. One of the better matchups there, and I think everybody's looking forward because it's SEC against the Big Ten. So I mean, it's kind of cut and dry exactly that. Everybody's always talking about these 2 big conferences, but let's see how that's going to unfold. But there's going to be a champion declared one day. But boy, whoever comes out of this thing, it'll be a brutal bracket. And I mean, Georgia's down with some players, but here you have Boise State just sitting there pretty fresh, and the Heisman Trophy candidate's a running back. And they're sitting there waiting for Clemson, Penn State, and they're already in the semifinals. I just think that bracket really needs to be reevaluated.
Yeah, Coach, and I know you're going to talk about it later, but I did want to point out, I do wonder how a bracket where the number 1 team, Oregon, has the toughest second-round draw is functional. I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and of course, we're going to get to your segment later. But before we do that, we want to go ahead and talk about Saints as the Saints defeated the Giants 14-11 this past weekend. Anything you learned from this team? I mean, it's tough to learn too much beating a New York Giants team that's been down the entire year, but what did you take away from it?
Well, it's amazing how one guy can make a difference. And, PAT block and field goal block, that's when a lot of players take it off. You can really tell a lot about a player when the PAT come, because a lot of people think it's automatic. Well, I don't have a chance to get through. They're going to wedge the front. I can't get through the line. But all of a sudden, Brees, now he said in the paper, it was a design block. And what they do, they block one guy and another guy tried to get through and open up a crease for him. But it's just a great effort play. And the guy just refuses to lose. And I mean, how many guys are like that just refuses? They're not going to concede. Well, I'm not going to get there. And most people feel like that in a PAT block. Coaching the special teams for all those years, I know a lot of it's hard to motivate them. Say, guys, you never know that 1 point right there could make or break the difference in the game. Well, this was a field goal. He knew at the end, and he gets a hand up. Now, I do think the ball was the trajectory of it was a little slow. I do believe that. But the fact that happens a lot, but he got his hand up and it made the difference in the game. The Saints walk away with the win. Now, a lot of people talk about it was ugly. Let me tell you something. When you play in the NFL, it doesn't matter. When you play, they're all getting paid. You take a W and you go home and you run. And because you take that W, because they're all very special. I mean, they're hard to come out. How many games have the Saints lost by 1 score? So I'm really tickled to death for Coach Reese. I think that he's done a great job motivating those guys. And I'm just hoping to win a couple more. But I know the playoff hopes are slim. But let's keep them motivated and let's see what can happen. I think there's going to be a big transformation at the end of the year with that roster.
And, Coach, they also going to take on the Commanders, I mean, who've really kind of been a different ball club this season. How do you like the Saints' odds in that game?
Well, they got to stop Jalen Daniels, and they have to stop him. He's going to pull the ball down. I don't think you're afraid of his throwing. He likes to go deep. I don't think you're afraid of his throwing. I think you're afraid of his legs, because he can extend plays, and he can run around there for 10 seconds and find somebody open. It's hard to cover those guys that long. That's what makes him so valuable. And then you'll pull it down and run, because he's probably got to be the fastest quarterback in the NFL. So I think if they can control that a little bit, but they're going to have to come up with a quarterback. It looks like the Saints today brought another quarterback in. They signed another quarterback. He doesn't have any NFL experience to be the emergency quarterback. So that tells you that Carr's probably will not play in this ball game. Personally, I like to see Haener go. I think his release is very quick, and I like to see him get a chance. Rattler had a shot. I like to see Haener get a shot at starting the game.
All right, so that'll do it for our first segment. When we come back, we're going to have special guest, former St. Charles Comet and current University of Louisiana defensive lineman Mason Narcisse. And we'll be right back after the break. Remember, you're watching Varsity Sports Now.
We would like to thank the Accardo Law Firm for being a supporter of the Let's Be Frank video podcast. Based out of Gramercy, Louisiana, LSR produces Southern cane, pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. LSR utilizes the latest innovations in technology, as well as ensuring the growth and stability of Louisiana sugarcane farmers by integrating more than 800 growers in the industry's economic structure. Southern cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. Our goal has been to establish a strong relationship and partnership between you, the insurance company, and our agency, creating a circle of success that prepares for disasters before they actually happen.
We want to welcome on our special guest tonight, who played defensive line while at St. Charles Catholic for head coach Frank Monica, earned district defensive MVP, was part of the All-Metro team and All-State. He also joined the University of Louisiana and is in his senior year, where he plays defensive line and has earned 3.5 sacks on the season. We want to welcome in our special guest, Mason Narcisse. Mason, thank you so much for joining us. We were talking a little bit earlier. I've gotten to admire your game from afar when I got to call your games. One of the biggest moments I got to call was the semifinal game when you blocked that PAT to send your team into the state title. Of all your experiences that you had at St. Charles from an individual level, what was the biggest moment that you can recall for playing for Coach Monica?
My biggest moment had to be when I blocked that field goal. It had to be. It was just it was live, man. Like when I blocked it, everybody started running on the field. It was just a great feeling. So I would say that's probably one of my most high moments I had over there.
No question, Mason. Congratulations also for making the whole Sun Belt Conference team. That's quite an honor. You're one of the few guys, Mason. I don't know if you realize it. Coach Desimo was the recruiting coach when he would come by school all the time. He was a position coach at the time, a tight end coach. And then he ends up being your head coach. So that's quite it. That doesn't normally happen in the college ball. You've been very fortunate to play there and start for him for 4 years, and you're going to get a degree pretty soon, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Good. That's really good.
Yes, I am this fall.
Mm-hmm. Well, the combination is really proud of you. I mean, you're one of the best defensive linemen that ever come out of St. Charles. Well, put it this way, for a fact, we haven't admitted that big. The fact we're talking about that. What are your dimensions right now?
I am 6'2.5", about 295, 298. We'll range around there.
That's really now. You told me the other day that you really improved your speed. So what's your 40 speed right now?
I would say my 40 speed would have to be a 4.9, 4.9, 4.8, because we work on a lot of running drills during practice. Like we have like little running drills when we. So I would say my speed has improved.
That's really good because the pros are really big on vitals. They're big on the shuttle time. They're big in. What about your bench press? I know they do the indexing on the bench press. They put 225 on the bar. And how are you doing with that?
Oh man, I'm about to start getting ready for that for my pro day. I would say I would do at least. I'm aiming for like 20 something, like 22. I want to get like 20 something reps. Yeah.
That's great. That's 20 something more than I could ever do. So that's really that's really good. But Mason, what's made you who you are is your character and your personality. I mean, the student body loved you. You're a very, very humble guy. You're a good player on the field. You had a lot of guys that I think that really looked up to you as a leader and a role model, and I appreciated everything that you've done. I mean, you really easy. You were easy to coach. You're very easy to coach. And just your biggest fan, your dad passed away when he was a big fan. I was a big fan of his because he never missed a practice. And people talking about missing games. He was over there on the side and never missed a practice.
Never missed a practice, a game, nothing.
And he would tell me, say, Coach, I heard you say such and such. How do you know that? He said, well, I was at practice today, something like that. And
never missed not one.
And it was always at the quarterback club meetings on Tuesday nights, like we have now. So, but Mason, what's the biggest adjustment you'd give to a young kid from going from high school to college as far as playing college football? What would be the biggest adjustment? What advice would you give that kid?
I would say just go into it open-minded. It's not easy, but once you get your foot in it, it's gonna come easy. Because I remember my freshman year, talking from experiences, I thought I was gonna go in there, being a starter and stuff like that, and it hit me because I had somebody that was much better than me. So I took up from him, and I learned his ways, and ultimately I became the starter. So I would say just take your time. Yeah, take your time and don't rush things.
I think that's great advice. The cream always comes to the top. We talked the other day. I think you're looking for the future. Might be able to play. You got that big bowl game coming up in New Mexico Bowl that against TCU. What do y'all know about TCU? Have you looked at any tape or anything about them yet?
No, I haven't looked at no tape on TCU yet. Yeah, I haven't looked at no tape.
Well, just a year removed, they were playing for a championship themselves. So
I know.
So I mean, I'm sure they got remnants of that from that. That team.
It's gonna be a good game now. We both good teams, so it's gonna be a real good game.
I know you guys had a couple of injuries at the end of the year, and that game that you guys lost to Marshall in that championship game, and I'm hoping that you can get somebody back. I know you're not a doctor right now, but I'm hoping that you can get a couple of your quarterback back anyway to help you be competitive.
Yeah, I'm hoping, man. They say there's a possibility that he might be coming back. So, I pray for the best because we're going to need him. Ben is a great quarterback and a great leader at that. So,
well, I know that y'all should be proud because y'all had a heck of a season. The game with Tulane that you guys lost to Tulane was a real good ball game. It was a hot day, and that was a very, very competitive game. But Mason, tell us, in terms of, I know you told us today that you have an agent, and so how does that process work with the agent right now? Does he do all the talking, negotiating for you when it comes to the pro teams?
Yes. So I'm signed to Dream Makers Agency, and they the ones that talk to the scouts, and they give me like NIL deals. So for example, I would say it's called this brand called I think it's like a nutrition brand, and they had talked to them for me, and they got me like a couple packs of like nutrition. So they talk to the scouts for me, they talk to people for me and stuff like that. So yeah, it's nice having an agent.
Well, I know that college ball has changed an awful lot. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
If this thing doesn't work out, what would you like to do if football does not work out in your future, Mason? What would you like to do for the rest of your life?
I would like to be a coach. Yeah, like I feel like I can't get away from football. Like I love it that much. So I feel like me helping a younger generation, me coaching D-line, like I feel like I can give them a lot of great tips for them to be great as a football player and great as a person.
Well, that's great. You'd be a real good one just because you got experience to fall back on. You'd be a great mentor to people and stuff like that. What do you think? Nowadays, the techniques have changed. What kind of technique, as a technician, do you think that you use? Did you use the button separate technique to get off of blocks? Did you use your hands more? Did you use your feet? Did you use the swim technique? What was your favorite technique to get off of, let's say, in pass rush? And maybe I'll have you demonstrate it against Jason. What do you think?
Pass rush. We talking about in college, or we talking about high school?
College. In college. Well, in high school, I would say you could bully people. You know what I mean? Because you could just push them back.
I could bull rush all day. You can't do that in college. You can't do that. It's harder. So I would say in college pass rush, them boys pretty big. So I would, but don't get me wrong, I'm still strong. So I would bull, but then I would pull. So I would bull them, and then once they set their feet down, I will pull them so they off balance. And another move I will also use, and I used it this last the last game against Marshall. I used the one arm bull because you got more length when you use one arm, and then I will snatch off. So I would say that's probably my favorite moves to do, and a spin move too, and catch them off guard because nobody expecting a 295-pounder to do a spin move. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, some coaches get away from the spin move because they say you lose sight, but I think it's very effective.
It is
because unless the offensive lineman is well coached, he keeps his hands on you. But now, are you better on the left or right side? Mason, does it matter?
It don't matter.
Good.
Yeah, it don't matter.
Yeah, that's good because the defensive linemen are hard to find. Other than the quarterback, I think they're the first people taken in draft. Other than the quarterbacks, because
I see that. I see that a lot. A lot of D linemen get took.
Yeah, I hope that you get drafted high, and I just want a shrimp po' boy out of it. You know what I mean? That's. Let me ask you this: who's one particular guy in the NFL, or maybe it's a college guy that you'd like to take after that you want to emulate, that you think is sort of your hero?
Man, I would say I've been looking at a lot of film on Mason Graham. He's a D tackle at Michigan. We have similar height and build. He's 6'2". He got me by weight. He 315 pounds. But I've been watching a lot of film on him, and he big, he's twitchy just like me. So I just been watching a lot of film on him recently.
How about somebody in the NFL? Is there anybody in particular?
In the NFL, the dude from the Packers, what's his name? Kenny Clark.
Okay.
Yep, Kenny Clark. Yeah, I also watch him too. Well, I just like to watch people that have my stature and my build. So I feel like me and Kenny Clark have some similar weight and height. Right.
Well, that's good to know. That the fact that you have a mission, it looks like you have a direction, Mason, in terms of that. But I just as a player, I remember you were always where you're supposed to be. You never missed practice. You were always in the weight room. You were always a yes sir, no sir guy, and that came from your mom and dad. And your mom just a beautiful person too. We went through that recruiting process. I remember on that signing day, you had the whole family up there that particular day, and that was a special day for you. Yeah, in terms of that, because there was a period there we thought that you might end up at Tulane. You remember that?
Yeah, I was committed to Tulane for a little minute. Yeah. Then I made that switch.
You were going back and forth there, and the whole deal. But that's part of the recruiting thing. Mason, yourself, had you ever contemplated, like a lot of people do now, transferring and using the transfer portal to your access?
I mean, Nah, I never really thought about the transfer portal. I feel like Coach Dez did so much. Like me and him was on a level of like it's more than coaching. Like he was like he family to me. So I feel like I just could never leave that program. Like I wouldn't feel right leaving Coach Dez. Like I said, I looked at him more than a coach to me. Like he was family. So I wouldn't feel right doing that.
Well, that's amazing because that loyalty is unheard of nowadays. So that's really, really good. But what's your thoughts on that transfer portal, the NIL stuff? What's your thoughts on that, Mason, from a college perspective?
Oh man, it's like college is becoming like NFL. Like I feel like in a few years they're gonna be making trades, like just like in the NFL. So I mean, I like it because it gives us the opportunity for the younger generation to get money. Like I know when I first came in, you know, all I'll get is a COA. But now these boys, they getting like 1.5 million. They getting like 100K a month. So you know, kudos to them because they get money for their family. So
I agree. You know, Mason, when I was in college, we only got $15 for laundry money a month. That was it. Our scholarship
15 a month.
15. That was it for laundry money. And but now you don't. Now
So
you
like they pay for your dorms. Like
oh,
they
yeah.
pay for
they pay for everything else. You had room, the meal ticket, room and board, but the $15 is extra for laundry money. Like nobody did laundry anyway. So
yeah, that was back then in the 1800s, coach. That was 1800s right there.
All right, I owe you. I deserve that one. I deserve that one. But Mason, you know the college game has just changed so much, and but football is still good football. You know, whether it's high school or college, that field's still 100 yards long. You know what I mean? And I think it's so important that you put yourself in position. You've been relatively healthy for your career. I mean, you haven't missed many ball games, have you?
No, I haven't. I haven't missed I missed like 2 games last year because of my not last year, 2 years ago, and that was because of a ankle injury I had. So yeah, during my whole time in college, I probably only missed like 2 games.
Well, I think that's a credit to you because you kept yourself, you know, in great condition. And I think that's a lot of guys don't do that. You know,
you definitely got to take care of your body for sure.
No question.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys have talked about they don't do anything until right before the season, and then all of a sudden they come up with these soft tissue injuries. You know.
Yeah, this is an all around sport. Yeah, it's an all around sport. You got to be taking care of your body all around because you don't want to go into practice cold and then you just mess up something. So.
Well, you know, when I told you when you signed, I said you got to really love the game because when you get into college, they actually they control everything you do because you have to be in meetings, you have to be in classes, you have to be in study hall, you have to be at practice, you have to be in a weight room on their schedule. You know what I mean?
On their yes.
So that's a big adjustment in college. The only advantage is you get to schedule your classes like you want to, and stuff like that. But look, we're so proud of you. We're so proud of you and happy for you, and we're pulling hard for you, Mason. You got to please give your mom a big hug for me, and
I got you.
And thank you for taking time out to do this. And I like your new hairdo, the whole deal. And but by the way, do we have a girlfriend?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, she's in the room right now.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I hope that she's got plenty of money. Okay. So
why are you doing me like that?
But listen, you take care of yourself, and thank you so much for doing this. And you ever come to LaPlace, now you let me know, and I'm gonna treat you to a po' boy. How's that?
Oh yeah, I'm down for that. We can do that.
You sure
you know I like to eat, coach. I'm down.
Oh well, look at me. I look like the Pillsbury Doughboy. You know what I mean? So I mean, listen, please take me up on that when you get back in town, and give me a call. We'll get together because we can take this conversation a little bit further. Okay?
Yeah, we definitely can, coach. I'm down for it. I'll let you know when I'm back in town.
Please let me know, and I want to know what your future's like. Keep me informed about how this thing's going to work out for you after your game. And good luck in the bowl game. We'll definitely be watching it on TV. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mason. Good night now.
Good night.
Hey,
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to you, by the way.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
We would like to thank Gulf Coastal Sponsors for being a sponsor of the Let's Be Frank video podcast.
Based out of Gramercy, Louisiana, LSR produces Southern cane, pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. LSR utilizes the latest innovations in technology, as well as ensuring the growth and stability of Louisiana's sugarcane farmers by integrating more than 800 growers in the industry's economic structure. Southern cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. Our goal has been to establish a strong relationship and partnership between you, the insurance company, and our agency, creating a circle of success that prepares for disasters before they actually happen.
We would like to thank Riverlands Insurance for sponsoring the Let's Be Frank video podcast.
Welcome back to our third and final segment on the Let's Be Frank video podcast, the Let's Be Frank segment. Coach, tonight you're going to talk about should high schools continue to use the Superdome or use other venues for the state titles?
Let me preface this by saying, years ago, when the select and non-select came about, they had problems with 9 football games, orchestrating 9 football games in the Superdome, the rentals and the dates and stuff, sort of like that. The select teams decided to say they voted in the LHSA meeting to actually get out of the Superdome and have their own venue. Now, what that means is your own venue is find a college campus, like a Nicholls State, like a Southeastern, like a Tulane, like a ULL, which we used before, and let those teams decide whatever that division was, let them decide where they're going to play that. And I experienced that at ULL. Then at St. Charles ended up playing at Tulane. I remember Catholic High and Jesuit playing at Tulane as a doubleheader with St. Charles Catholic against Lafayette Christian, and it worked out just great. And the reason I say this, because when you're playing the Superdome, not as great, because a lot of fans and kids, they say, well, we hope we make it to the Dome. That's basically their big goal. Let's make it they make T-shirts. Let's go to the Dome, the road to the Dome, things like that. That's phenomenal. But I'm talking from a coaching standpoint. From a coach's standpoint, it's a logistical nightmare because, one, the day before you play, you get 45 minutes to use the field. Basically, it's 45 minutes to take a picture, to use the field, and only half the field. So by the time you get down there, 45 minutes is a blur. You go down, you're getting back on the bus, and you're going back home. And if you're renting the buses, then all of a sudden, all your bags, they give you a whole list of things, and they send you this information 3 weeks in advance. Anybody's in the playoffs, after you get to the quarterfinals, you have to have all this information filled out. Who's going to be on the sideline? Who's going to get sideline passes, chain crew, headphone sets, cheerleaders, band, the whole thing. What gates you have to enter, what time you enter, the whole thing. Right after the ball game, you have to get off the field immediately because there's another game going on. And the whole thing, it's really, really a cattle show. And it's a phenomenal phenomenal venue from the fans that can stay there and watch the ball game. That's really, really good. You can see more than one team play. But on the other hand, as a coach's standpoint, it's a rush thing. And then all of a sudden the game comes. A coach wants to actually just kind of worry about the game in the venue. By the way, when St. Charles and Jesuit and Catholic High, when they played at Tulane, their paycheck was 4 times more than they received in the Superdome. Because the Superdome is prorated by classes, and you get so much for each class. So you get this much money, plus you get $1 for every ticket that you sell. But when you have another venue like that, you get to split the pot 2 ways. And that you make 4 to 5 times as much as you made. These 2 teams, the 2 Division I schools made over $70,000 apiece. They're not going to make that from the Superdome. But the venue from the fan standpoint and the kid standpoint, I get that. But from the coach's standpoint, it was really, really difficult with all the logistics. I had the opportunity to play in there several times. And, we had to rent buses to go down there for a 45-minute practice the day before. Then the next day you're out of school and you're doing all these other things. And it just takes you away from the game itself. And then before you know it, you're only in that field for about 2.5 hours and boom, it's a blur and it's over. You came and celebrate for a long time on the field itself. So from a coach's standpoint, I think that individual venues was so much better. And from the coach's standpoint and the team, you can concentrate more and concentrate more on the ball game than all the logistics of tickets and things of that nature.
How much of a distraction can that be for your players, Coach? As a coach, you mentioned you kind of have to delegate a lot of that, but how do you keep your team focused during that time? I know you were very strategic in everything that you did, but how difficult can that be to make sure your players are not getting caught up in the bus, the 45-minute bus ride, as you said before, and all of those things?
No, it's real difficult because, they had things, too, about ticket requests. Are you going to come home on a bus, or are you not going to come home on a bus? Can I come home with the parents? And some teams have done that. Some teams, they take them there on the bus, but they let them go home with their parents. What do you do about the cheerleaders? What do you do about the principals? Who's going to go out there for the coin toss? And there's so many little logistical things. And when you play a game at home, they think they take place automatically. You know who the chain crew is going to be. Your headphone sets, that's a big issue with coaches. Am I going to use the Superdome headphone sets, or am I bringing my own? Then you have to have a certain code to make sure that they work and stuff like that. And so now from the fan standpoint, as I said, it's tremendous. You can schedule the second week of December where you're going to be, and I can go sit there and watch a bunch of ball games. But now they're putting those on TV, which I think is another mistake they always just say make. I think they really lose a lot of money that way, because I think, you can pay $11 or $12 now and watch every ball game on television.
All right, Coach, let's go ahead and move on to the next segment, which is Blitz the Ball, Coach. And tonight you're going to explain what's the difference between speed option and triple option.
Well, guys, in the past, I'd like to give a little football deal. A lot of you know this, but a triple option is exactly that. It's three different guys that can carry the football in one particular play. And the graphic I got here, and I'll show you right here at the top of the screen, you see what I call the triple option. Very similar to what you saw on Army-Navy run. At the top, you see the quarterback. You notice I got him half shaded. So what the quarterback reads in this, he reads the first down lineman from the center position out. So in this particular case, we're running the dive to the right. Okay, that fullback, by the way, his toes are at 13 feet. They're at 13, so he's right behind the quarterback. It's unlikely that guy is going to lose any yards when he's handed the football because he's so close to the quarterback. Okay, so the first read in this particular case will be that tackle. You see the little dotted on top of that tackle to the right, and then you see the arc block by the tight end. Now that tackle is still going to try to come inside. If that tackle squeezes too much, the quarterback's going to pull it, and he's going to now become an option himself. So he might keep it to the outside, or he might pitch it to the pitchback coming around. That's why they call it triple option. The fullback can carry it, the quarterback can carry it, or he can pitch it to the halfback coming around. Sometimes it's with short motion. This same play can be used and going to the weak side, opposite the tight end. In other words, instead of going this way, he'd go that way, opposite the tight end right here. And it still read with the same reads in place. So now if you notice, I got everybody blocked over there. Can you load it? Load means you can, the guy that normally has the quarterback, he's the guy that you block. So that all of a sudden now there's no read on it for the quarterback. It's automatic becomes a double option where he either keeps it himself or he pitches the ball. Okay, so that is a triple option in itself. And there are a lot of ways you can run it. You can run out a true wishbone set. You can run out this double wing set that I have here. Army and Navy run it. Army and Navy, remember, they're to my idol football team. They don't have NIL. They do not have no such thing as transfer portal. They're just pure, unadulterated guys that love to play football, and they're very physical. They have restrictions. Army and Navy have restrictions about, a long time ago. You had to be a certain size. You could not be real big because the Navy requires you to actually get in those submarines that are very small and compact as far as the quarters are concerned. So those teams, to me, I think they're exactly what represents America. It represents a college football what it should be. No NIL, no transfer portal. And the one at the bottom is what they call a regular speed option or lead option, meaning there's no faking involved. The quarterback gets the football, he goes down the line, and he reads the end or the option guy, and he either pitches the ball to the halfback or the lead back, or he'll keep it. This is a speed option or lead option. Both of them very effective. Both of them used to get the ball to the perimeter, and both of them, I think, really can. If you got speed on the perimeter, but the bottom line, you have to block those guys on the outside, the corners, and everybody else. So both of these plays are very, very effective. So when this is not an option route like we talked about in the past. That's a pass route. These are running plays. But again, why does Service Academy use these? Because they don't have the biggest and fastest players, but these are hard to defend. They're a nightmare for defensive coaches because they have to have a guy say, you take the dive, and somebody has the quarterback, somebody has to have the pitch. You know how defensive coaches practice this with a sock. They take a sock and let the guys walk through. They go assignment, because that's so hard to defend, especially if you only have 3 practice days to get ready. If you have a bowl game, it's different. But you have 3 practice days to get ready for a triple option team. It's a nightmare for defensive coaches.
Thanks for that, Coach. And let's go ahead and take a look at the water cooler segment, where tonight you're going to discuss the composition of the selection committee for the playoffs.
I wanted to comment on this because, number one, if my car, if I'm feeling sick, I don't go to a mechanic. I'm going to die. I just think that this situation, what I mean by that, here you are, you're trying to pick the best football teams to go in the 12-team playoff bracket. It's not the committee's fault. The committee was given a formula that doesn't work. It's got a ton of flaws in it, and it's not their fault. But you have 4 coaches, former head coaches on it. 4, only 4 out of a 13-member group. 4. You got 4 ADs on it. You got 2 women on it. And nothing against women, but the guys that should be calling these shots should be football coaches. Should be guys. It should be loaded with football coaches, ex-football coaches, guys that could be on it. A guy like Nick Saban, and even though I know he gives his opinion, but people like that should be on it. But they were given this particular formula, which I don't like. Number one, they were given 12 teams. Now next year, Wednesday, they go expand to 14 teams, and they had the conference champion. So these are the flaws that I think that are in it. One, they should not have buys. If they would, I would love to just sit down with them in 10 seconds. I could come up with a bracket of 16 people in 10 seconds and get it all right with no buys. They should not have buys in it, because now that's controversial. Number 2, they shouldn't have an automatic bid from the conference champions, because here you are. Why have a conference championship by some conferences and others don't? So some are just sitting there without a ball game. But yet they make the top 12 without a ball game. Why have conference champions? Well, we all know why, because of money. I mean, they make $8-10 million on a conference championship game, but it's not fair when it comes to selecting the best team. Okay, eliminate the conference championship, eliminate the automatic bids, eliminate the buys. The bracket itself is not fair. So how do you make it fair? Go to a true power ranking system. Go to a true power ranking system. Here you have the Clemson's way down there, ranked number 17, but they're in the top 12, okay, because they won a conference championship, okay? But so they got to get away from that, all right? The SEC screwed themselves because they wanted to add more teams into be the super conference. Now they're complaining they only got 3 teams in it because they're the ones that wanted a big mega conference and stuff like that. But now they're complaining. Ohio State the Big Ten has more than them. So, I mean, that is something that needs to be rectified with all of it. And the home field advantage, I don't understand that. If they would do that simple formula and just make everyone go a simple formula, make all of these games bowl game. These 2 teams will play in the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Citrus Bowl, whatever they are. Every matchup should be a neutral site and a bowl game. That should be not a home field advantage like that. I think that's a big flaw there. There's a big advantage there. So my system would be 16 teams like the FCS used to do, 16 teams, no weekends off, no buys. You got an automatic bracket set up by a power ranking system because you have to. Jason, we talked about this earlier. You have to reward people for a tough schedule. That has to be rewarded. A team that doesn't play anybody. I mean, Indiana didn't play one team. They didn't play one team other than Ohio State. I mean, they need to play more people. I'm not saying they didn't deserve to get in, but my God, you look at the disparity of the schedule that some of these people play. So my thing is the selection committee was given this formula, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault at all. But I'm complaining a little bit about the makeup of this committee. It should have been all football coaches, because that's the one that really know what's going on. They make phone calls when they've been in the battle and stuff like that. ADs have not been coaches. These guys, the ADs, were not coaches, and I know one of them in particular. I worked with him at Duhe, and he's on the committee. He was never a football coach. But my bottom line is that they could have done a better job with the selection committee and done a better job. There's going to be more and more controversy as this thing goes on. So that's kind of my take. Again, 16 teams, no buys. Let's go with a power ranking system. Make every one of those a bowl game. And no home field advantage here.
Yeah, Coach, and I think it's as you mentioned, it's a no-win situation for the people who are in those chairs because of the criteria they're given, but also, and we can sit here and argue whether or not people have high moral character who are in the committee or not, and I mean, I'm sure they do, but the problem is when your money is at stake, you are going to consciously, unconsciously make those choices to favor your teams, to favor your conference. And I don't think it's fair to ask these people to try and be unbiased in these situations, these scenarios, and making these selections of 12 teams, because it's not possible.
No. I mean, you look at SEC, they as strong as it is, there's no way you're going to get out of there. I mean, a real good football team can lose 3 games in SEC very easily, which happened. I mean, they can maybe even lose 4. I mean, but I think at the end of the year, South Carolina was as good as anybody with that quarterback, and I mean they had a shot right there. Ole Miss was as good as anybody when they played, but they were ups and downs. I mean, so they could have beaten a lot of people already in that bracket right there. So the Indiana, the SMU, SMU. I mean, they lost the ball game, and look, I'm glad they made it. I really like the last day and their offense and the whole deal. But I'm glad they made it. But yet on the flip side of it, were they one of the 12 best? Well, we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be – I'm excited to actually get to see it play out. As you mentioned, are there flaws? Yes. But again, hopefully over time we'll see it kind of correct its course. But we're going to go ahead and move on to our last and final topic, which is our locks of the week. Coach, who are you taking this week? Well,
because there's only one college game, I'm going to look at the NFL this week, and I'm going to go with Pittsburgh and take Pittsburgh and the +6. They're underdog against Philadelphia, and I just think the Steelers' defense is pretty good.
And I'm going to go ahead and stick with that college game. One of the most exciting matchups of the season, the atmosphere, the intrigue around it. I'm going to take Army over Navy. It's a 6.5-point spread. Army has been playing lights-out football. Especially what they did to Tulane just a week ago. I think this team should have had a little bit more of an argument in the playoff picture. But, with the automatic bids and the way it's set up, didn't work out that way. But, again, I really like this Army team.
No, I just think this game itself exemplifies exactly what we want in college football. These guys, there's no portal here. These guys are not going to NFL. There's no NIL money. They're working for the government themselves. And I mean, this is exactly what it's supposed to be about. And they play their buns off. So, and it's a big game for them. It's a real big ball game for. It's a packed house, and it's always a big game. And I think it's a phenomenal tradition that we have in college football.
All right, so that'll do it for us. So let's go ahead and give you our social medias before we go ahead and give our final thoughts on the season. You can follow us on Facebook at the Let's Be Frank Video Podcast, on X, Instagram, and TikTok at the LBF Podcast. So, Coach, any final thoughts before we get out of here for the season?
Well, guys, first of all, we won't be with you for a while until next season, but Merry Christmas to everybody. Please put Christ back in Christmas for all of us, and hug all your loved ones, and let's appreciate the fact that we were on the wake up list today.
And I want to go ahead and thank everybody for watching. As Coach said, again, we appreciate
and our sponsors, all our sponsors,
yes, all of our sponsors. We appreciate everybody for being a part of our show, for engaging with us. We want to thank Gabe Garza, who's filled in and been a part of our show, despite the fact that Justin Thomas hasn't gotten his name called a lot more. But again, we want to thank both of those guys for helping us edit the episodes, cut the episodes, set everything up. Again, just so appreciative to them. All of our guests that have come on, everybody that's taken the time out of their schedule to talk with Coach Monica and myself. We appreciate each and every one of you. And again, of course, I want to personally thank Coach Monica again for having me on and being a part of this ride. It's been so much fun. I've gotten to meet so many people and gotten to have conversations with them. And again, all great people. Of course, that's the type of people Coach would gravitate towards. But again, thank you for having me.
Very, very nice of you to say that, Jason. Look, you did a phenomenal job all year long. You, Justin, and Gabe, and maybe one of these days, Justin will let me pet his cat. You know what I mean? He's been a tremendous guy and just a great sense of humor in the whole deal. So I'm really going to miss you guys for a few months, but hopefully we'll be back in August again. So Merry Christmas to everybody, and thank you so much for watching our show.
Yeah, well, Coach, you ask everybody else to go to lunch. You don't ask me.
Well, I have to see. I might have to take you to a drive-through. You know what I mean?
I'll look. As long as it's supersized, Coach. As long as I get it supersized, we're good.
No, as long as you get one number. No, there's no extra. That's what I tell my kids. You only get one number. It's either number 1 or number 2. No extra.
All right. So again, we want to thank everybody. We want to thank Gabe Garza. We want to thank Justin Thomas. And for head coach Frank Monica, I'm Jason Duhe. And remember, Leslie Bon Temps Roulette. Let the good times roll.
Good night, guys.